Protecting Canada's Arctic has become a point of focus as threats from Russia and China continue to grow, and the UK seems to be willing to help. The United Kingdom is sending a military expert on Arctic threats posed by Russia and China to work in the British High Commission in Ottawa this September. The UK is dispatching Nick Diggle, a former Royal Navy officer and research specialist in Arctic security. The move follows a warning in March from Canada's defense chief that protecting Canada's Arctic region is a key concern for the armed forces. General Wayne Eyre warned that Russia has reoccupied abandoned Cold War bases in its far north, and he can't rule out a Russian incursion into Canada's Arctic from the north in the decades to come. Well, with us now to unpack the situation in the Arctic is Dr. Rob Huebert, Associate Professor at the University of Calgary and an Arctic security expert. Doctor, welcome back to Forum Daily.
Always my pleasure.
So in what ways can this Arctic expert from the UK assist Canada beyond its current capabilities?
Well, I don't know how much they're going to be assisting per se. I mean, I saw the press release and I know that's the terminology that's using. I think that the deployment of this individual to Canada is really twofold. First of all, it's to underline the seriousness by which the British are taking this issue. Most Canadians won't be aware, but the British have actually just released an Arctic security policy paper. It's sort of talking about the way in which they see growing threats in the Arctic, what they want to be seeing in terms of trying to restore it to an area of peace and stability, and failing that, being able to respond to a threat. The second factor, of course, that flows from that is that the British are looking for ways of improving their Arctic and high north capabilities. And I suspect that this individual will be coming over to try to gain opportunities for British forces to train more with Canadian forces in the high Arctic.
And we mentioned General Wayne Eyre's warning that a Russian incursion from the north could potentially come in decades to come. So can you tell us a little bit more about how big of a threat Russia and China are in the region currently?
Well, we have to be really careful. What we're hearing from General Ayres and from other senior leaders is that really there isn't that much of a threat. If you listen carefully to some of their statements, they're saying that there is no immediate threat of a Russian invasion of any Canadian territory. Well, that's a bit of a red herring because it never was a issue since the beginning of the Cold War in terms of any Russian invasion. It's never been about land. It's always been about aerospace and maritime. And in fact, there's a very serious threat. We know that the Russians are developing both aerospace capabilities, hypersonics, and other related delivery systems of a very advanced nature, and new underwater delivery systems of both nuclear and non-nuclear payloads. And that is where the threat comes from. As we look for Russia becoming much more aggressive within the European context, should things really go bad in that particular theater, one of the real possibilities is that the Russians will try to make a move that extends into NATO, but before they would do so, they would try to either blind the Americans or take a significant part of the American offensive capabilities out. That means attacking the North American homeland, and that means attacking us as both a NATO ally and a NORAD ally.
Some very concerning developments on Russia's end there. So just for some further perspective for our viewers, what is the strategic significance of the Arctic for all players?
Well, I mean, we're seeing because of the geography of Russia and the fact that Russia has now become an aggressor state opposed to Western interests, we see the Arctic actually becoming one of the most dangerous strategic environments in the entire international system. It's a little bit out of sight, out of mind, and people say, okay, it's not really going to happen. But if the Russians were to make a move on the Americans at that level, or if the Americans make a misstep, it is going to be fought over the Arctic. Now, when I say over the Arctic, we're not fighting for territory. We're not fighting for the extended continental shelf or to land troops, but basically the engagement at the highest level will in fact be weapon systems that are either based in the Arctic or are moving to take out weapon systems based in the Arctic. And so this is the part that becomes so dangerous. The third factor that we haven't talked about, but we need to, is of course the reality that the Chinese are also building up their capabilities. Now, at this point, are they focused on having an Arctic war fighting capability? And most people are saying that they're not seeing anything yet. But you have to remember that China in 1990 had a defense budget that was less than Canada's. Once they made up their mind to become a major player, they now have the second largest defense budget at about 370 billion. And so one can't rule out an eventual entry of Chinese military capabilities, particularly nuclear-powered submarines, into that region.
Sounds like a lot of action to come in the Arctic. Lots to keep our eyes on. Dr. Huebert, thank you again for your time today.
Always my pleasure.